Welcome to Citizens Forum. I'm your host, Tom Dunn, and as usual, for the second time, I'm with the city manager of Port Hueneme, BConners. And Brick, it's been 2 weeks since we did the last one. You're still here. I guess everything is going fairly
Yeah,
smooth.
it seemed like 14 days ago.
About the same, but some of those days can, really stretch out. And so I'm sure you're getting more acclimated every day you're doing it, and different things come up. As I mentioned 2 weeks ago, we're doing 3 of these every 2 weeks until the normal city council meetings get up again. And that's mainly to have everybody catch up on what has been going on, although there was not much coverage. And I've been swamped the last 2 weeks because I've been able to get in with people and talk now, and we're spacing each other, and it's the people have been really antsy, and their tempers get a little short, and sometimes over minor things. They're not major, but it's nice to know what's going on around you, what other people are doing. So what I'm going to do first is go over a few of the things that we talked about in our meeting 2 weeks ago, just to refresh everybody's memory, and you can tell us if there's been any update in it, okay? The first major thing we had going back a little bit was the new water bill rates and everything. We had you and I both had letters and emails, and you put together a memo, and we put it out on all the social media, and I think it helped. I haven't heard much. Have you gotten any more feedback on it?
That was what I would call an issue, only because the number of people that were emailing or asking questions about it. That was probably about 2 months ago, and I really haven't seen much activity in that area since. Probably about a month ago.
Yeah, I think it's had time. There was some real weird. You were paying for a certain amount of time that didn't make sense to people, but it was setting up this new system, and I think now it's got into a rhythm where they understand it, and the best thing is, I think if they look closely, they'll see over a period of time. Now we're talking mainly residential. If you don't water your lawns too much, you should see a decrease. Do you have an idea of approximately how much, a percent, that their bills should go down?
No, I mean, that's a great question, and we have it teed up to do a kind of a detailed analysis after we go through the full 4 seasons where water demand is strikingly different. And so the council would ask for them almost immediately, and we just don't have enough data to provide what I would call a valuable analysis that you could actually use and make predictions out of. And so we are planning to do a full analysis after we've had a good 4 seasons of data on terms of who's saving, who's in theory most people should save unless they're corporate users or they have high water demands.
Yeah, a restaurant, a bakery, they're going to have the continual use. But if you're a resident and own a home, or you're a landlord, if we have a rainy season, your rate's going to drop pretty good.
Right.
A normal rainy one. And if it's more towards a droughty type of thing, we do have. I don't know if you've seen it. We had a scale of 1, 2, and 3 of how you could use water, and the longer we didn't have any rain, the less you were to water this and that, and it really helped. And I think Port Hueneme was 2nd or 3rd best in the county of water conservation. That was a year or 2 ago, before we had a couple decent rainy seasons. So that'll be something for us to look forward to, and I'm glad that that's got cleared up. The next thing is we talked about Measure U, the tax, sales tax that went on last April, and you mentioned that there was going to be some type of review in September with HDL. Is that still the case? Is anything else been going on? Because it's been 16 months and there's been no review of anything. Is that still?
Yeah, there was one initial meeting that took place, and then there was a meeting that was scheduled or tentatively scheduled, and then the virus happened, and so that had been put on temporary hiatus and then we're flowing for another meeting in September. In that interim or dormant period, we've worked with our consultant on tax HDL, which processes not only our business permits and licenses, but also collects the data from the state, so that and they present all the revenues that are associated with all of those measures, including you. And we ask them, what's the best way to run this oversight committee. And so we have some good input on that. So the next meeting we'll have, we will be prepared to work with our committee and doing what I would call the oversight of the due diligence of the request, and make sure that we're executing for the commitments that we made, but also to demonstrate that on the financial and budget side that we're doing those same things. So
that'll be in the first week or two of September. Is that when it's planned?
Yeah, we don't have a hard scheduled date, but that's what we're working towards.
Yeah.
Is the September meeting.
I'll really be interested to see what that meeting developed and what parameters you set up and how the oversight committee is going to operate, so that the people understand, and when the numbers do come out or there are questions raised, people be aware of what's going on. And then that's also where this advisory committee can kick in if you need answers from the public because they're asking a lot of questions, or you have information you want to send out to them. Those two will work.
I think most people understand is that everything that would be in Measure U are all elements that would also be in the general fund. And so what we need to demonstrate is what is in excess of what we would normally spend in those areas of public safety, for example, that Measure U allows us to do. And we're talking anywhere between $1.5 and $2 million, depending on what those revenues look like. We just had our last meeting with HDL, and it looked like we've been fairly healthy despite the virus impacts on our economy. So there is not going to be that big of an impact as other cities may be experiencing.
Well, I think it's we don't have as much tourism. People coming in and out of the city. Most of our tax base is from established businesses here,
Right.
And we don't depend on influx from people coming in all over the place and people that stop going places. So that's why some cities have really bad budgets issues. Let me ask you. I had it later on, but I'll ask it now. What has been the decrease, if I'm right, in the amount of tax revenue taken in because of the virus in Port Hueneme?
So we only have projections. The actual data is really about 3 months dated, just the way it's collected and reported. And right now, at least in the 19-20 fiscal year, we've actually, because of one-time revenues and a variety of other things, we had an increase over the budgeted projection for revenue. And in the forecasting, they're looking at about an 8% reduction in overall sales and use tax revenue.
That's what the little owl and tree told me. Something around that, which compared to many cities, that's a drop in the bucket and very manageable, I hope.
And we have a weekly city managers. It's part of the emergency management process, right? So 2 times a week we gather with the city managers, and we're talking about HDL production. And a lot of us use that as our tax revenue agent. So the question was, are they optimistic? Are they conservative? And we're finding that they are probably a little bit more conservative than what we're actually seeing in execution. So that's kind of a good sign, I guess. But there are some cities that are much more, exposed financially to the virus than we've been.
Well, yeah, with the tax and with the cannabis money, it makes it workable.
Yeah.
Before you were here for a while, it was not workable. It was a real every day was tight. So great to hear that. We also mentioned Hueneme HEROS, which you've put together a way to do that, and there's going to be some dates down the road that you will start letting people know how we're going to do it and all that. Has anything come about different than that, than what we talked about last meeting?
Well, I guess the big news. I don't know if we really talked about the last meeting, but we have the first scheduled Citizen Advisory Commission, and that will be on Tuesday at 3:30 of next week. That's open to the public, and the agenda will be published today,
Okay, let me, August when?
Tuesday. What is that? The
Tuesday?
11th.
Is
I
it the
think it's the
11th?
11th.
At what time?
3:30.
At City Hall? Or how's it open to the
It'll
public?
be the way we're currently doing our city council meetings. It'll be zoomed and then broadcast through our website through the portal that we normally use for public meetings, live public meetings.
Okay. I'll let people know that that'll be coming up, and I'm sure they'll be glad to see that at least starting to get into action.
And there's only 3 items on the agenda. The first one is to pick a chair. Well, there's 4 actually. The second one is to pick a co-chair. The third one is to review and recommend approval of the bylaws. And then the fourth one is the HEROS history and heritage policy.
There will be things that will pop up. I mean, the 3 years since I brought it up, there was always something. Come on, we gotta talk about it. Luckily, the Citizen Forum and the new city council and new department heads were doing a bang-up job to take care of a lot of the stuff
Right.
that would have gone into the Citizens Advisory Commission. So I imagine it'll pick up some, and there'll be issues that you want to know about, they want to know about, and I think it'll work and be a great two-way street for information.
And in the bylaws, there'll be quarterly meetings. We'll start to assign subject areas for them to investigate and analyze, participate, and make recommendations to the council. So hopefully, the spirit and intent of the original creation will be well served with this group.
The spirit and intent were that the residents wanted to feel like they were part of what was going on.
Right.
And I think you understand that, and you want to make it work, and I can't wait. We mentioned I've been working on for a couple of years to get the surf warning signs up. You said they were going to be part of the program at the beach. Is that still any more news on that, or is it still in the
I
works?
don't have an update on that. I know we had a kind of a new sign initiative, mainly associated with virus, but we wanted to make sure in certain areas that we had those beach advisories and warnings, because as we discussed, it's a tricky beach, and if you don't know what you're doing,
Well, my wife took our great-granddaughter, 3.5 years old, down to the beach yesterday. And they were there for about 3 hours. And they said, and they were training the junior lifeguards. She said there must have been 50, 60, 70 of them, which is a lot more than there was 2 or 3 years ago. Guys and girls, and they were doing their training and everything. And she said the lifeguards the regular lifeguards had to go out 1 or 2 times to warn people, do you have anybody watching you, and that type of stuff. And because in a split second it can knock you down and carry you away, and if you don't swim real good, you better be careful. So
it's cold too, so your fingers almost start to not be very useful to you.
Yeah, swimming in waves is different too.
Yeah.
You lose
Spatial orientation.
Yeah, and I remember when I used to surf, those waves would knock you down into the sand. You had no idea where you were, up, down. You learned how to figure where you were and push up. But it took a while. But if you're a stranger out there and haven't done it, you're lost. So good. I'm glad that is going to keep working. We mentioned the police and being at the school crossings during the morning when kids are coming to school and when they're leaving. And I think if I remember that you were well aware of it. Some of that had started happening, but then with the schools not open, it's been sort of delayed. But I just want to keep that on the burner whenever the schools open up or something, that is on one of the main things, because one of the main concerns here are the parents and the residents about the children.
I think like everybody around the planet, but especially the United States and California, we're really concerned about our kids and when school starts and how these programs are going to be organized and executed, and what we can do to help out our local school district and our local schools so that they can, work through this risk environment and hopefully get these kids back in the classrooms.
And two, they've been talking about having split times when kids come in, so that will make it a 12-hour
Yeah.
type of issue that needs to be looked at. If you have parents and kids coming in every 3 or 4 hours, they switch and stuff. So that's going to be something really to work with the superintendent, which is right across the street, and see what they have planned. And because I've had a couple meetings with her over the years, and it's amazing what they have to do to protect the children, and how they've safeguarded the schools, and now this is a whole nother safeguard. And I've heard one of the most difficult things is wanting the teachers to do so much that they don't know how to do. All the safety stuff, the keeping things clean, medical recognizing stuff, and so there's a lot of that needs to be learned.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions, a lot of fears, those type of things as you would expect in a risk environment with a lot of unknown conditions. We'll be supportive of the school, but for right now, they're going to go online only. But at some point, they have to return. They return. We were talking about that today at our city managers meeting, and they were talking about waivers, depending on if your county or your area is not in the kind of the designated risk areas as Ventura County is right now, LA County is right now. But you can get a waiver. And the real focus is that K through 8th grade, where you need home supervision of young children and with their parents, or some kind of parental guide or supervisor while these kids are home if they're not at school. And so there's, I have the pages. There's like 2 or 3 pages of specific requirements to go get a waiver and go back to full classrooms.
Just alone, how would you like to try to keep a mask on a first and second grader? That's like trying to herd cats into a bag. I mean, they don't understand, and so
every day's Halloween.
Well, they'll turn that into it. I'm sure if they can. But there's a lot to look at with that. We talked about Miranda Park, mainly the security, the camera, and the lights. And you said in 2 or 3 weeks, last time we met, that they should be up and ready and running, and you might have a little feedback on that.
I don't have updates on the cameras. I do know that the lighting project will start on the 12th of August, according to our contractor, NG, and that will be primarily focused on the tennis courts, but also some of those other the recreation areas too. That the current light posts. I know there's been some comments about the brightness, and so when we first started doing the street lights back in like June, July, we've been getting a variety of different inputs, complaints, and so we've been making a variety of different night drive-bys. We work with Edison. They put shields and some other things. We can change the intensity and do a couple other things. So we're gradually calibrating it and looking at specific light intensity issues where windows and bedrooms and all those kind of things are effective.
Yeah, that was mainly the first feedback I had was from people who lived in Miranda Park. Now, and I sent you an email and I got a copy of it here, people around Bubbling Springs are complaining about the street lights, not the park lights as much as the street lights. Same thing, they're just really, really bright. Will you be looking into that also?
The approach you can take is obviously you can call the city hall, but we or Edison too, because they're the ones that come out and put the shields and guide some of the light exposure away from houses. So between Edison and the city, we work with their contractor. They go about making those calibrations, and they're very responsive too. And the staff from our facilities director to our police, we've asked those guys to make runs at certain times of the day and check out and give us some feedback.
Right now, that seems to be the biggest public nuisance that I hear about. And we've had other things over the years, and it's been a little quiet lately, but this is something, and I do hope that you and, does the Public Works have anything to do with that?
Public Works now, our facilities runs both the sustainable energy or sustainable city programs, NG, the solar, LED lighting, and so they're running that program and that contract. So it would be our facilities folks that do that under Miss Gabrielle Basua and her team. But everybody on the city staff are supporting that. We want to get the lights right, and we really appreciate the community feedback. If they get blaring light noise coming through their windows at night, and we can accommodate that pretty quickly.
That'd be one of the major things that we follow, because the email that I got the other day, a couple people said they went to Gabriella and let her know, and she was going to go out there one night, I think it was last Tuesday, and check it out herself. And so that's what we need, is that type of concern by the city for the residents. And when they have an issue, I think I told you before, and they probably heard it, they like for something to be done, but if it can't be done right away or the way they want, give them the reason. And that's what they deserve. So I'm glad that is one of the main things going on. Now, we also mentioned the Park and Rec Master Plan. Is that part of what we were just talking about, or is that something, is that for the major updating of the ball fields and the whatever we have there?
That would, it's I don't think it's purposefully aligned or synchronized. This was an energy project that would, basically give us about an $80,000 a year savings in our energy costs over time through solar panels, LED lighting, and those kind of things. So that, although integrated and supportive of a Parks Master Plan, they're two very different things. The Parks Master Plan is really what are the programs, what are the facilities, what are the events, and what type of equipment and apparatus should we focus on.
Right. It sets the parameters for what you want to work on, and then.
The biggest one for me is we have what I would call a very expensive landscaping in terms of maintenance. A lot of dirty trees, a lot of big roots, a lot of things that require what I would call very aggressive service levels to keep in check. And so part of that's also going to be, starting to evolve towards a more friendly xeriscaping with indigenous species, landscaping, plants and materials and all that kind of stuff.
You did know this is a tree city, right?
Oh, I know.
It comes with the good things and it comes with the bad things.
Yeah, and there's ways to do it right. And we had an issue with some trees, and I was at the base, and with the eucalyptus trees, and we had a eucalyptus tree just fell and it just crushed one of the buildings right next to the Bard Mansion. And as we looked at them, those trees die at 100 years, almost like clockwork. And that whole row of trees in Ventura is all.
Yeah, I remember that.
We started taking them out, and the city got real upset with us. So we had a compromise, and we replaced it with a more durable, less dirty, and an indigenous species of tree.
That was one of the first things that when I started getting involved, and they started cutting down those trees, and I was talking to somebody who said, yeah, we have to because we're afraid they're going to fall down. Yeah. And I said, okay, I drive up and down here a couple times. Yeah, well, let's take them out. Really don't want. It was ugly. Yeah. It was bare, and they did put in new type of trees, and they're back up again, so it looks nice. Now, another issue that was brought up, I don't think we discussed it, but I was going to discuss it this week, but since we're talking trees, I'll discuss it, is the scheduling of tree trimming. I think they have two types. They have the palm trees, which a lot of them are down at the beach and down Surfside Drive and that type of stuff. And they come out every couple of years and thin those out and all that. Rest of them are the regular trees, and this person told me that they were trimming like in the spring. Well, when I was in charge of Surfside 4 landscaping, the guy said, no, we do it in late October, so there's no growing season. If you do it in April, then in September, you're gonna have to do it again, because it's just gone through the summer and the spring, and they grow right back. And I can't remember who I talked to, and it could have been you, said, yeah, we're gonna look into that and see if it makes any sense, because as you say, this city is just has so many plants and trees and stuff. It is expensive. It takes a lot of people. So if they would look into that as a way to save money and save labor time, that could really work out.
Yeah, and on the landscaping side, and even if it's sand moving on the beach, we have the corporate knowledge, and we also have the technical and scientific knowledge to determine with high confidence the patterns of all these plants and species. And so when you know that, then you can start to program over time the service levels required to manage their growth, to manage their debris field when they go into a transformation. And when you do that, you can be a lot more efficient with your very small team of landscaping professionals. And so when we start, approaching all the things we do in the way we service the needs of the city and landscaping and streets and those type of things, we can be really effective in anticipating and mitigating issues before they become serious problems. And it all flows from a base understanding of how each one of those plants, each one of those elements of our landscaping change and transform over time, and then formatting our programs around that.
Yeah, one thing to look into, you may have slightly mentioned it, is the type of plants and trees you replant with, because where we were at Surfside 4, people and they had just taken anything they could find and planted. And now when the guys come through to clean it up, this is growing here, that's not growing here, but they're in the same. So how do you schedule what to do with and make the best use of your landscape people? So having a good pattern of what works, and what is it called, California-based type plants that don't require quite as much water.
It's a term that we did this at the Navy too, in all of our installations. We went through this xeriscaping thing because we have a lot of area. It was during the water crisis, and we were challenged to reduce our water bill by 15% every year I was there, each year. And so in order to do that, you've got to be very tactical with what you plant and how you plan to maintain that base level of city beautification, in this case a base.
So when you're at one place, you want to take care of everything and then move on and make a nice clean cycle that makes the best use of everything. Okay, couple other some newer things I wanted to bring up is the dog park. I don't know if we mentioned that last time. I don't think so, but there has been talk from both the city, you I think sent out stuff to reply to people, and you had replies from them. Where do we stand on the dog park?
So, the first thing is the community benefit fund was approved, and there's $10,000 into kind of the first phases of creating a dog park, or it may be many dog parks. I really don't know at this stage, but before we do any of that stuff, we want to know exactly. We want to set the parameters for what good working dog parks, rule sets, the elements of a dog park, the size allocation. There's all sorts of rules that I didn't even consider, like double entries, so that if you do have an aggressive dog, you have a barrier before that, and then different exits, so you're not migrating animals through there at the same time.
You got dogs that are coming in and out one exit; they're going to mingle.
Right. And so when we are able to establish at least the base requirements and parameters, and then we can start to look at the locations that meet those parameters. It could be some ideal locations, there may be none for all I know. I'm not saying that's the case, but we want to do that first. And this is one of those projects that is going to be great for the Citizen Advisory Commission.
That's what I was just going to bring up.
Okay,
Feedback.
here are the parameters, and based on these things, these are the only spots that they can do. So where do you think we should do that? And some people will think that some of the more condo intense or congregated areas where they don't have grass or so they may be more interested to have a dog park closer to them. Some people should be centroided between all the communities. Others maybe have to have two. Some folks because we can't take the dogs on the beach, so maybe it should be closer to the beach. I don't know. And I think the Citizens Advisory Commission will be a great resource to figure that out.
Living in Port Hueneme for 15 years, I figured out that 70% of the people that live here have come from somewhere else, moved here, all the condos and things like that, and maybe they had dog parks where they live. We could get feedback from all these different people that have different experiences and what's good and what's bad. So there's our first new citizen advisory thing for the second meeting.
And then the first run out may be more of a temporary thing, and we may
Trial.
Do a demonstration, a trial here, see how that works. Take some data and do that thing before we kind of commit to a hardscaped permanent structure.
You could even put on, like you said, a demonstration at the community center, because there are plenty of land out there, and show them, hey, if we did something like this, we put some dogs, here's what we're doing, and let people really see. We video it, send it out everywhere, and really get some good feedback, because you don't want to spend a lot of money and time and then find out, oops, we didn't cover everything we had. But doing something like that.
And just so everybody knows, our deputy city manager, Charles Peretz, he used to be in Pasadena. They have a bunch of dog parks out there. He's talked with a bunch of those communities. He's got a fairly good, what I would call legitimate resource partnership with a couple of these cities. And we're also going to ask our contractor for this park master plan to look at what our understanding is. And when we have that this is like within days, when we have that baseline package, then we'll probably give this to the Citizen Advisory Commission to go, okay, here's the parameters, where should we have the park? So that's where we are, and we have at least $10,000 of seed money to kind of do an initial phase of Port Hueneme Dog Park.
Because I know, again, at Surfside 4, the people there would 3 times a day go out and walk their dog. And so it's something that they're really, really interested in. Good, I'm glad we're in the startup phase of that. And again, it's something that the people can see, the city is really concerned about, of something they would like to see. And we'll all present the pros and cons of what's there and try to make the best of what we can.
Yeah.
Did you, I think it was Chief Salinas, wanted to know, I wanted to know what you know about, and have we made it public enough about the use of drones in Port Hueneme? I had talked to one of the lieutenants at Point Magoo about a year ago, and he told me that there are some very private airspaces for Point Magoo, which does some high-tech testing, and they don't want any of this stuff within a certain range of Magoo and the Oxnard Airport. They don't want them, around. And so Chief Salinas put out this notice and everything. Have you heard anything more about it, or do you know if anybody is still doing drones, or what's that situation?
I haven't. He put out a kind of a general
He posted it on
public information that there are a lot of airspace restrictions, we have and we use drones within the department, and we're also going to start an Air Force, a small one, but it's mainly public safety. Everything from supporting fire department with thermal imaging and IR payload sensors, to doing inspections and survey type stuff for public works and community development, to doing all sorts of stuff on the environment, beach erosion and all sorts of other things. And so we are in the process of developing a requirements package and then procuring at least 2 with the payloads. And we've been borrowing some for now, but we've got all the airspace, and this is probably why this came up, because we've been working with the base, and we've been working with the air control agencies, and we, for the most part, we have a 50-foot limit, and you can get exceptions to it, but they have to be for, the most part, a emergency-related immediate needs where you have to elevate. And it's tough with the trees.
Yeah,
it's
a
tough
lot
to
of tall
fly
trees.
anything at 50 feet, and so 300 is a much more friendly environment for drone
But this would
operators.
just be something the city could do. Individuals, no.
Yeah, this is public safety related stuff where we have direct access to air control agencies, and we have pre-negotiated agreements with them for activation of those airspace.
You've talked to the right people to get an okay on this.
Right.
Because I know when I talked to Lieutenant Commander Magoo, my God, he went on for 20 minutes about why.
Right. Well, the other issue with the base is not just the kind of sounds and stuff, but they operate on a variety of different radio frequency bandwidth things, and they have some very tight restrictions. And so there's a whole bandwidth frequency dynamic that's playing into this too.
You know what all those towers are for on the mountain above there, don't you?
You talking about Laguna Peak?
Yeah, you were there, and I've talked to the PR lady out there, took me all around, and there's a lot of important stuff that you don't want people here to inadvertently mess up the transmissions and everything.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much on that. Let's see. We had mentioned every year the city and the port have a community, what do we call it? A community fund.
Mm-hmm.
And have we advanced or come up with anything this year that the port and the city have agreed to fund and work on?
Yeah, we just approved it on the 20th of July, and we had reconciled every past year. We reprogrammed some of those funds from prior years, and we had $328,000 to execute in direct support of our community. And so, there's a variety of different projects in those 20 projects, and there's still $85,000 left in fund that's not been obligated, but we've started executing on those projects, and they go from some public safety stuff, body cameras for the police. We're giving donations to a variety of different of our nonprofit organizations like REACH and the Turk County Community Fund and the STEM Robotics Program, and some gentleman provided public comment that he'd like the banners they used to put up in the city back up for holidays and those type of things. So we have money targeted for that as well, and so that was a big win on the 20th of July, and we're trying to aggressively support the community along economic recovery lines, and help our community when they probably need it most.
I'm going to send you an email and ask you if you can send me an overview of what you just said.
Sure.
So too much to write down and keep track of, but we can print it and put it out on all the various media outlets that we use to let people know, what's going on. There's been another question, and I brought this up either in our first meeting or the first video. I think Port Hueneme gets 1% of the total revenue of the port, and Oxnard gets, I heard, 6%. And we're bearing a lot of increased traffic and stuff and noise. Is there anything going on? And I think you said there was discussion between the city and the port about what is going on.
Yeah, there's a 2015 agreement that really combines or fuses 5 really separate agreements, and each of them have some variety of some kind of a revenue sharing component to it. Last year's the port's contribution to our general fund in terms of that sharing agreement. There was really 5 agreements. It's about $1.8 million.
Yeah, right.
And so it's between 1.8 and 2, and and I think when I did analysis, usually increased somewhere around 5% year to year. So it's a significant
They've
component.
been having good years at the port, yeah.
Talking to the port, although this year will be a little off mainly because of a variety of different things that happen, not just with our port, but because they have a lot of international business too that have been impacted. They don't see as drastic a financial impact as they originally thought. So the city will still benefit from that agreement. There may be a better way to do that, and we always want to look to partner and be each other's best advocate for being successful in what we do. And they need us to be successful, and we need to honor as a good partner would, and do what we can to make their business, because if their business is good, and the safety elements of what they do is satisfied for the city, then we all benefit.
One of the issues, David Scrivener brought it up in a memo, I think, the city council got, and it's about the truck traffic up and down Hueneme Road, shaking the house. And I just had a contributor of Hueneme Voice, where the person was doing at 4:30 in the morning, coming out down to Port Hueneme from Surfside Village, said there were a couple trucks going like 60 miles an hour down there, and the port was contacted. I put this person in contact with, I think it was Donna, at the port, and she said they didn't have any real record of somebody going that time of day, but that is the issue we have, is nailing this down and getting evidence that, one, it's dangerous, 2, it's at that time of the morning it's just really loud, and at night from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. And is there anything we can do to start good citizens advisory committee? Hey guys, or
we have what I would call formalized. I think it's been informal in the past, but I won't call it a committee, but it's a group of the staffs between the port, city of Oxnard, city manager in particular, myself, chief of police, and then a couple of their key staff. Part of what they're going to do is look for grants to do studies, but also look at technology solutions in terms of both managing the traffic, but also noise abatement and those type of things to increase safety. We're looking at a variety of things on the policing side. We've already invested quite a bit, and it's really paying off in identifying stolen cars and all sorts of vehicles that are wreaking havoc within our community. It's pretty amazing. If we get a hit on it, we usually find the car pretty quick with our patrols. And so we've got a lot of technology things that I think we can bring to bear. But the great part about it is we have this really nice collaborative between the port, the city, and Oxnard, to really start to triangulate around these issues and bring the best minds, best solutions, grant money and resourcing in order to keep our city safe, to keep that traffic under control, and kind of work through these types of issues.
I know 6-9 months ago they did put up some signs and some flashing lights of some type on Hueneme Road, and I think that has maybe helped a little bit, but I think, as you say, they need to study to figure out how to really do that, because that's almost getting into an environmental injustice if you're trying to sleep at night and you can't. So.
And and on the human side, there's incentives they can use, or the contracts can use in order to make sure that there's an incentive associated with safe driving. prudent driving and consideration for time of day, those type of things.
Okay, that's number 2 item that I think enough people are concerned about that needs to be addressed, and if they know you're working on it, they'll be happy. I wanted to update you on something that has been going on for almost 2 years, and that was the wastewater plant, which services Port Hueneme and Point Magoo and parts of Camarillo and all of Oxnard and the port and the Navy. Very important. And then also the new Indy recycling plant. And both of those were guilty of putting out smelly air and noise and everything. And we've worked on it, and slowly I have gotten reports from people that live in that area. And there are about 5,000 people that live within, let's say, a square mile of those 2 plants. Right. And their kids were being affected. They couldn't go outside. A lot of the aged, older people in this area have respiratory systems. And slowly, I have heard that it seems that that situation has come down by about 50%. Occasionally they will have a smelly night, or occasionally they will have some noise, but it is so much better than it was going back for a year and a half. And it's been the work of some of us in Port Hueneme. Rod Butler was on them, the city attorney has been doing things, and the city of Oxnard has been helping with it. And I know the wastewater plant is now treating the water at pumping stations away from here, so that when the water gets down here, it's not nearly as smelly. And like I said, the noise and the smells from New Indy seem to have been going down. And I even had somebody said, hey, a year ago the house prices at like Surfside 3, the condos and some of the hidden villages were down about 40%. They are up to back where they were on the last couple sales, where they were a couple years ago. So that is coming along really, really good. And those are the type of things that are, again, environmental justice that we need to look after and see that our quality of life here, remains, to everybody, the friendly city by the sea. And I'm glad that, you're concerned and you're working and you're up to date on all this stuff. And I appreciate the residents sending us these emails that we have, and we can, work on and get them an answer back right away. Has anything come your way that I haven't brought up that we need to look into?
Well, I think we talked about last time, but I did get an email, and it just was coincidental to a kickoff meeting I had for a technology we're going to deploy called gogov. It's like a 311 system, a mobile app, and so that any resident and any visitor, if they download the app, they can find out anything they want to know about the services in the city, points of interest in the city. What do I do with a dead duck? They can figure that out. And if they have graffiti or something like, they can take a picture, and if they're a subscriber, they can, when they take that picture and send it, now we know who they are, we can contact them. It goes to our agents, which we have for hundreds of potential requests or issues. And then they get feedback. This was reviewed by that person, and here's what's going to happen. And so this system is going to allow our residents to be tuned in. They don't have to go to that kind of quirky website where, what do I do about this? And then you got to kind of hunt and do a scavenger, which is fun if you have time. But this is going to serve them so much better. But then the other thing we can do is we can take surveys. Where should the dog park go? What's the, you pick it.
Get stuff back within 24 hours.
Yeah, and then they can help us improve it too. But the beauty for us is we start to collect data. We know that 99% of the complaints are on this particular issue. Now we can really put our force and focus on that. instead of other stuff, instead of treating everything equal, right? If it's a particular area, we can focus on that. So it helps us be real, diligent, and precise with our resources, and also our focus and attention, so that we're addressing the big issues that affect the most people the quickest. And then we'll also have some data, and I have no problem presenting that every month at a council meeting, where we go, we said 24 hours is, where we want to, correct the graffiti. We're hitting 22 within our areas of control, or we're at 1.5 days, or maybe it's 7 days, and then we have targets to correct back to, so we can tell them how we're doing. We can report out. Here's how we're doing, and this is what we're going to focus on.
You mentioned to me in our very first meeting that you had a lot of ideas, and especially the social media, communication, and what I want to do in our next meeting, we'll have a few things to review, but for you to list and tell us ideas you have for the city, and where you want to go, how you want to look at this, look at that. Here's what I found out in my first 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think the people would be really interested in that, to know what do you see that will help make their lives better. So.
By the way.
Yes.
This gogov, that's the name of the company. We need help naming this application. And so we'll throw out, we're going to be soliciting names for it, and we'll probably pick top 5, and we'll probably have a contest, and pick the final app name that we're going to use for this city. So that'll be kind of fun.
Send that to me, and we'll get it out through Kathleen and all our social media, next door, everything, and I think that'll be fun, getting the residents involved. Rick, thank you very much. Appreciate for all the information that we've given to the residents, and we will see you in 2 weeks from now. And hopefully, if you have any issues, please email either Brick or myself, and we will look into it as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.